Welcome to Perception versus Reality Sports and Culture, where we cover sports from a different angle and bring you topics most podcasts and radio shows will not cover. I'm your host, Rodney870, and welcome my co-hosts, Neely, Mr. Sports IQ, Lemuel, aka Limwood, and Stanley, known on Instagram as Third World 870. Please enjoy this PvR clip and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Welcome to PvR Boxing, where we will cover all major boxing events and some UFC events. Today we're going to start off with a fight that's coming up, a heavyweight fight between Anthony Joshua from the UK and Big Baby Miller. Anthony Joshua, who is currently 22-0 with 21 knockouts, and Big Baby Miller, who is 23-0-1 with 20 knockouts. This fight will take place June 1st at Madison Square Garden in New York. Seems to be a pretty good fight. I guess it's a step up for Anthony Joshua, so to say. In his last few fights, he's been taking on subpar competition, in my opinion. Could get better, and he has gotten a little better. Although we wish he would have offered Wilder or Fury a little more money to take on those two guys, or either take on Luis Ortiz, but that wasn't the case. But I guess you could say Big Baby Miller is not a bad, option when it comes to the heavyweight division and when it comes to not being able to take on those two top guys. Baby Miller comes in with a decent record, but he hasn't really fought anyone of, I would say, top 10 caliber. But he's put on good shows. Everybody they put in front of him, he basically destroyed. So I think he's a big, strong boxer, very cocky. Willing to talk a good game. Used to be a kickboxer in his early years, so he's very active in the ring. Throws almost 30 to 40 punches around for a heavyweight, which is good. Goes to the body a lot. So I think Big Baby Miller will give Anthony Joshua a good fight. Anthony Joshua is a guy who, to me, is a little overrated, to be honest. He's great, but as far as being a great fighter who will dominate everyone, I don't really see that. I don't really see that Tyson-esque fighter that dominated from 86 to 91 before he was knocked out by Buster Douglas. I see Anthony Joshua as a guy who, as long as you put the right people in front of him, he'll continue to shine. He's a 6'6", good-looking guy, so all the ladies are going to love him in the UK. Has a lot of fans, has a big following. He's currently making, I think it's £20 million per fight over in the UK, selling out the O2 Arena and Wembley Stadium, putting 70 to 90,000 people in the seats. So he's very popular over there. Anthony Joshua in this fight, I think, is going to have to bring it, because I've seen him hurt by lesser fighters. And what I mean lesser fighters, Povetkin, a guy who was coming off a suspension for steroids, was able to hurt Anthony Joshua in the second round and break his nose. And he was able to recover and eventually knock the guy out. But he should have destroyed that guy. Then you talk about Carlos Takam, a 6'1" heavyweight. Anthony Joshua held at advantage with 5 inches in height and I think 3 or 4 inches in reach. And the guy was able to give him a decent fight, and he eventually stopped him on a BS stoppage, and I think it was the 9th or the 10th round. Then you had Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker was a weird fight because Parker was coming in as a champion. It was a unification fight. And Parker was able to hit Joshua to the body a few times and hurt him and back him up. And when he tried to continue the body work, the official, for some reason, kept breaking up the fight. So it was an ugly fight, and the official was just terrible. He wouldn't let them work to the body. He wouldn't let them work on the inside. Wouldn't let them work on the ropes. He just kept breaking it up as if he was trying to protect Joshua in his hometown. So of the last 4 or 5 fights I've seen from Joshua, he hasn't really showed me much to say that he's going to be a dominant heavyweight. He has the look as far as the body and the stature and the style and the swag, but in the ring, he's a little, so I say, weak to me. And I think Big Baby will be able to expose some of that. I don't think Big Baby will win the fight, because one thing I will say about Joshua, he does have a deadly uppercut. and he does have a nice overhand. And if he eventually catch you, he can hurt you. So I think he will eventually hurt Baby Miller, not stop him, but hurt him enough to get a tight decision. I would call it maybe 116, 112 on the scorecard, and maybe the other two scorecards 113, 115 for Joshua. So I think he'll take the fight, but I think Baby is going to expose a lot. With the fight being at MSG, I definitely think that Anthony Joshua will make his presence in the United States, and it's going to be felt because he's fighting at the Garden, the greatest arena in U.S. history. Big Baby Miller is from New York, so he's going to bring out a lot of people, and I think everybody's been waiting to see what Anthony Joshua can do outside of his home country of the UK. So I think this is a good step up for him as far as coming to the U.S., building that name over here, and then eventually taking on Wilder, who already has a name over here. I think it's going to be good for him. But at the same time, he can't slouch on Big Baby Miller. He can't take him for granted. He can't go into this fight looking towards Wilder, because if he do, he's going to get hurt. He's going to get caught to the body, because Big Baby throw a lot of body punches, and he has a strong chin. He's never been wobbled in his career. He's never been dropped in his career. So I think this is a good fight. I don't know if I was someone recommending fights, I would say definitely watch this, because you're going to learn a lot about the heavyweight division in this fight. One, you're going to learn if Anthony Joshua is as tough as he say he is, because you have a guy that's going to stand in front of him and bring the heat. And this guy's not a huge puncher, but he can punch hard enough where we're going to see if Joshua really has a strong chin and really can take shots to the body, or if he just all appearance and no heart. Then you're going to see if Baby Miller is a real player in this heavyweight division, or is he just a phony? Is he someone who is really a threat to Wilder, Joshua, Fury, and Dillian White? Or is he just someone who's been racking up wins against lesser talent, beating bums, and then he step up in competition and he get destroyed? Now he has to work his way back up over the next 2 or 3 years just to get back in contention. So I think you're going to see a lot in this fight. It's not the fight I wanted, but I think it's worth watching this fight. And especially with the back and forth that these guys have been, the entertainment these guys have been providing over the last few weeks with their press conferences and their sit-downs. It's been very entertaining. Like, I'm going to let you guys listen to, a sit-down, face-to-face off with each other in the UK, and these guys talking crap to each other, or shit to each other, so to say. But take a listen, I'll be right back.
Somebody told me this interview was so like, bro, how you from New York and we got this dry ass British fish and chip dude over here, like he's boring.
No faking
like, there's no animosity.
The real has stepped foot into New York.
He's boring.
The real has stepped foot into New York.
He has no character. He's not.
This ain't about character. I'm no acting character, bro. This ain't no character.
When does this end? When does this end? When does this trash talking end? Or
Never.
this goes into the
Never.
After I knock
him out, he'll go out and fight some of the other fighters I've beaten. Make a name as how he put up a good performance against AJ. Put him on an undercard somewhere. Still talk trash. As I said, cut him open 8 pieces. The disease will linger across his whole body.
You know what disease
he
takes
don't
on no
change, bro. He don't change. You are that you are.
Exactly.
So as you can hear, these guys really hate each other. During the first press conference, it was very explosive. From the jump, Baby Miller pushed Joshua, who is a guy who's been protected in the UK. He pushed him and he damn near fell off the stage, and it was very funny. And then during the back and forth, he kept calling him names, Joshua names, and started speaking on his mother. And Joshua began to understand that, hey, you're in the U.S. now. We don't play that shit over here. We're coming for your throat. It's not in the U.K. where we sipping our tea and we're all proper and trying to be nice to each other. It's about war over here. It's about kill or be killed, so to say. And I think he learned that pretty quick, and he came back pretty strong. Baby Miller's mother was in the crowd, and Joshua blew a kiss at her and told her she came to see him. And he pretty much told Baby Miller that he was his landlord and he's gonna set up his camp in New York, and he was allowing Baby Miller to get a payday. So it turned into a pretty good press conference. And I would say, all in all, so far, it's surprisingly has been entertaining. Baby Miller went on Sway in the Morning and did a freestyle and talked crazy about Joshua. Joshua went on and did a freestyle and said some things about Baby Miller. So I think it'll be a good fight. These guys are giving us good entertainment outside of the ring. And as I said earlier in this podcast, either we're going to see if Joshua is really ready to be that great champion and to show us that he's going to be here. He's here to stay for a long time. Or are we going to see Baby Miller step up and say, hey, I'm the new face in this division, and everybody's going to have to come through me. I'm not this guy that's been taking on cab drivers and bums and just building on my record. So I think it'll be a good fight. I think everybody should watch it. It's on the Zone, which is an app that you guys can get. First month is free. And it's June 1st. MSG, New York. Okay, the next fight we're going to talk about, Errol Spence and Mikey Garcia. These two guys are, Errol Spence is a welterweight, 147 pounds for those who don't know. Mikey Garcia is usually he's a champion at 135. So he's a small guy, but he has fought fights. He has fought in different weight divisions. He moved up to 145 to fight Adrian Broner, like I think a year ago, and he went back down, won a title at 135, and he came back up to fight I can't even think of his name right now, but he fought Adrian Broner's stalemate last year and beat him at 140. So Mikey Garcia is a guy who pretty much moves up weight classes depending on where the competition is, depending on where the challenge is. He loves a challenge. Errol Spence is 23-0 with 20 knockouts. Mikey Garcia is 39-0 with 30 knockouts. I would say this fight is very one-sided. And the reason I say that, Errol Spence is a 147-pounder. He's not your normal 147-pounder. He's about 5'10", and he's a heavy hitter. He will walk you down. He has stopped in his career big heavyweights. He doesn't play. He's one of those dogs in the ring. He's going to keep coming forward. He's going to put the pressure on. He's not going to let you breathe. He's going to go to the body. He's going to go to the head. He can take a punch, and then if needed, he can go defensive on you and counterpunch you. So Mikey Garcia, I think, bit off a little more than he could chew here, and I'm really a fan of Mikey Garcia. He stepped up and fought Adrian Broner, defeated him. Stepped up and fought Lipinets and defeated him. Stepped up and fought Robert Easter. That's Adrian Broner's stalemate. I couldn't think of his name earlier, and he defeated him easily in a 12-round fight. And Mikey Garcia has showed that he is definitely a future Hall of Famer and possibly a legend. But I think he's overconfident in his skills, because when you're 5'6" and you've been fighting between 135 and 140, and you're coming up to fight a guy who's nothing but muscle, 5'10", and a dog in the ring. He's not a counterpuncher. He's not a guy who's going to run. He's going to sit right in your chest and throw body shots as hard as he possibly can. Then when he comes to the head with those blinding left hooks and those pull overhands, pull counters, it's going to be tough. And I think Mikey has done some great things in his career, but I think he's biting off more than he could chew here, and I can't see a way for him to win. And over the last couple of months, I've been trying to think of a way for Mikey to take this fight and win, and I just can't see a way. And he's been training with a group called Snack, where they train fighters to build up their strength, build up their endurance. They have a state-of-the-art type facilities where you could go, and you could chambers and all kind of shakes and proteins and different things that they do to help you build up your strength, help you build up your endurance. And I don't think that's going to help him. As Errol Spence said a couple of weeks ago, Snack can't help your chin. Probably can help you build muscle, but that chin is still going to be the same chin it was last year and the year before that. And I definitely think he's going to struggle with Errol Spence, and he's going to get destroyed eventually. I think in the first couple of rounds it'll be a filling out fight. They'll fill each other out. And I think Errol Spence hit him a couple of times. But I think between the second and third round, Earl gonna really come with some heat and show Mikey Garcia that, hey, this is a whole different ball game. Different level of strength, different level of size, different level of pressure. And I think he's gonna eventually wear him down by the 6th or 7th round and knock him out in devastating fashion. And I think it's gonna be very ugly. And it won't hurt Mikey, because Mikey's taking a chance, so he's gonna get respect basically off taking his chance to fight a monster in Errol Spence. But at the same time, psychologically, it's gonna affect him, and that's why I think he shouldn't have taken this fight. I wish he would have fought Lomachenko or maybe someone else, not Errol Spence. If you're gonna come up to 147, fight a smaller guy like Crawford. Even though I think he would destroy you too, but at least it'd be a better fight because you guys are about the same size. But Errol Spence, no, you can't do that. And this fight is at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, March 16th, which is in 2 or 3 weeks. I'm definitely going to be in the house. I already got my tickets. I'm ready to watch this massacre, and I think it's going to be very ugly. So if you're in the Dallas area, make sure you grab some tickets. Come out, support Errol Spence. He's a Dallas native. Great guy, great champion. I think he's going to put on a show, as he did last year when he fought at Frisco and he knocked the guy Campo out in the first round. But that fight got Errol Spence winning on a knockout between the 5th and the 7th rounds. And it could be earlier, but I'm going to go with 5th through the 7th because Mikey is a great boxer, and I think he can somehow survive for 5 to 6 rounds. Our next topic we're going to talk about when it comes to boxing is Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 2. So this is a little drama here, guys. Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder fought in December. Great fight. Fury was coming off a 2.5 year layoff, was overweight, 300 plus pounds, dropped the weight, fought 2 mediocre fights to get some rounds in, and decided to step up and take on the devastating punch in Deontay Wilder, which everybody thought was crazy. Fury came in, surprised everyone. Boxed Wilder good, gave him boxing lessons for 5 or 6 rounds. But in true Wilder fashion, he's not a great boxer because he started out late in his career fighting at like 21. So he wasn't able to start at 14, 13, 15, whatever, at a young age and learn the technical skills. He had to come in and just say, hey, I'm just going to fight like a brother. Just try to knock you spark out, And that's what he did. He came in the fight. He was overshooting his right hand. He wasn't really going to the body like he should. I think in the first 3 or 4 rounds, I had Wilder winning because he was just more active than Fury. But in the later rounds, like the middle rounds, I would say starting at round 4 to like round 8, Fury started to come on. And you saw his boxing skills. Standing 6'9" and can move like an Ali. Man, he was giving Wilder a good boxing lesson because I think I gave him maybe 4 rounds in a row in those middle rounds. And in true Wilder fashion, 9th round come, bell ring, Fury is on the road. He feeling good. He's won like 4 or 5 rounds in a row. And here come Wilder with that big right hand. Boom, hit him in the temple. Knock him down 1 punch. And everybody thought it was possibly over with at that time. Fury got up like a true champion. And Wilder blitzed him and tried to knock him out. But Fury was able to hold on, box good through the rest of the round. Wilder pulled a round off 8-10. Coming to the 10th round, close round. Fury towards the end of that round bounced back strong, landed some good counter punches, landed some good check hooks, was sticking his jab in there, doing a good job at moving his head. Wilder was trying to catch him with the right hand again to try to put him down, couldn't really catch him, and Wilder actually looked tired in that round, and Fury won that round easily. And so the 11th round come. And the 11th round was kind of one of those rounds where you could give it to any one of the guys. Both guys landed a few punches, didn't really do much. And here's the big controversy. 12th round, bell ring, Fury come out, boom, nice right hand, overhand right, shook Wilder a bit. Wilder shakes it off, and boom, catches him with overhand right. And as he falling down, boom, a left hook. Fury is out. Look like he's asleep. I honestly thought the fight was over. I started walking in the kitchen to get another Crown and Coke. And all of a sudden, after 5-6 seconds, he just woke up and got up at the 9 count. And the fight go to the cards. Called it a draw. Some people thought Fury won. Some people thought Wilder won. Some people felt like a draw was a good result in the fight because of Fury's elite boxing and Wilder 2 devastating knockdowns kind of even it out, because those 2 knockdowns give you 2 points in a round, that's 4 rounds right there with 2 knockdowns. So I think Fury fought great. I had it a draw myself. Like I said, a lot of people said Fury won because of his story. And so now you have this fight that's a draw, and everybody wants to see these 2 big heavyweights. The heavyweight division is back. You have Anthony Joshua in the UK. You have Luis Ortiz from Cuba. You have Dillian White from the UK. And now you have Fury, who defeated Klitschko after reigning over the division for 12 years. And now he's back. So you have 4 to 5 great fighters in this division. And everybody's waiting on this Wilder Fury rematch. So they're in negotiations. The fight's supposed to take place either in May or early June. I mean, late April or mid-May. They had 2 dates for the fight, either in Vegas or New York. And so everybody's hyped up about this fight. Man, if the first fight was good and Fury's going to get a little more training, and Wilder in the last 4 rounds of that first fight knocked him down twice, so it's almost like the best of both worlds. You saw a guy in Fury who boxed good, but he'd been out the ring for 2 years and only had maybe 12, 17 rounds in the last 2 years. And you saw him box good, so you imagine if he goes back to his camp and he gets another 6 months to work on his craft and lose more weight, he's going to come back even better. But then you saw Wilder, who was overshooting his right hand most of the fight, and in the last 3 rounds knocked the guy down twice and really knocked him out pretty bad in the 12th round. So you saw the best of both worlds. So everybody was craving, was foaming for this fight, and we thought it was a done deal. And earlier this week, Fury came out and announced that he signed a contract with ESPN. Wilder doesn't fight on ESPN. Wilder fights on Fox and Showtime. That's an issue. You got networks who both want this fight because this fight is worth probably $40-50 million to those networks. So you got a fight that was almost done. Now you got a guy who goes and signs with ESPN, and you got another guy that's left out holding his nuts. Because he expected to have a fight with the number 3 heavyweight in the world and potentially make his biggest purse of $25 to $30 million. And now all of a sudden he's up in the morning eating breakfast and breaking news come across the screen, and the guy he was going to fight is now signed with ESPN. So then they play a game the whole week. They say, hey, we still want to fight Wilder. We still want to fight Wilder, but ESPN is willing to offer more money. So Wilder come out and do interviews and say, hey, I'm game. If ESPN want to offer me, $20-30 million to come over there and fight him, I go over there. I'm a free agent. With that said, Wilder decided to look at deals from ESPN and Top Rank. Look at offers, so to say, not deals, but offers for his services. Offers weren't good enough. So Fury come out yesterday and announced that he's not going to fight Wilder. In fact, he wants to take a tune-up. So now we're not going to get the fight we wanted. If Wilder knew Fury was going to back out, he could have signed on to fight Anthony Joshua and give us a unification fight of 2 undefeated fighters, which has never happened in history of the heavyweight division. So a lot of things happened. And this was a domino effect that hurt the heavyweight division. Because now, hypothetically, Wilder would go fight either Dominic Breazeale or Dillian White. Fury is either going to fight Joseph Parker or not Batista and not Oscar Rivas. He'll fight Oscar Rivas from Canada. And let's say hypothetically, Joshua, who's fighting Baby Miller, let's say he lose to Baby Miller or it's a close fight and they have to do a rematch. So now, instead of you looking at Wilder fighting Fury in May, knocking him out, and then giving us a unification fight in October, November with Joshua, which would be a huge fight, the biggest heavyweight fight since Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson. Now you're looking at everything being pushed back to 2020 or 2021, which sucks for everybody because we've been waiting for the heavyweight division for a long time. And the heavyweight division finally is back, and you have the battle of these networks that's killing the division because you have Anthony Joshua fighting on DAZN, and they want all his fights because they want to make money. You have Deontay Wilder fighting on Showtime and Fox. They want to make the money, so they want all Deontay Wilder fights. Now you have Tyson Fury, who was actually a free agent and who could have fought either one of the guys on any network. Now all of a sudden he's fighting on ESPN. So this the only thing about boxing that sucks versus UFC. UFC, every fighter is under one banner, so they can make any fight happen as long as they agree to the money. They don't have to worry about network issues. They don't have to worry about promoter issues. Just, hey, let's agree on the money. Let's get the fight done. Boxing sucks because of that reason sometimes. And I love this sport. So with that said, this was a terrible day for boxing. We're not going to get the big heavyweight fight. We're going to get a bunch of mediocre heavyweight fights because Joshua's fighting Baby Miller. Tyson Fury is going to fight Oscar Rivas or Joseph Parker, which won't give him a fight. Those will be easy wins for him. And Wilder's going to fight Dominic Breazeale or Dillian White, which he should knock both of them out. So you're not going into these fights with 50-50 fights. So with 50-50 fights where you don't know who's going to win and it's exciting, you're pretty much going to get 3 or 4 fights where you know who's going to win the fight. And that's not good for the division. So just want to give you guys that news real quick before we end the podcast. Let's cover some past fights. Since this is our first episode of PvR Boxing, Adrian Broner took on Pacquiao in January. This was a boring, I won't say boring fight because Pacquiao did put on the pressure a little bit, but Adrian Broner, as he always does, talked a lot of shit, talked a lot of bullshit, talked about his money, talked about all his jewelry and gold and all that shit, and how he was going to whoop Pacquiao's ass, and got in the ring and threw 10 punches around. Did not even throw punches. And what's kidding about this, not kidding, but what's crazy is that Adrian Broner is one of the most talented boxers I've seen in my life. I've watched so many boxers. I've loved boxing since I was 8 years old, and my auntie Sherry would watch Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson on boxing, on HBO Boxing, and I would watch it with her when I was a youngster, like 7 or 8 years old. Adrian Broner is very talented. Skills like crazy, hand speed, his footwork is unbelievable. His head movement is nice. He just doesn't dedicate himself. And then when he gets in the ring, he's gun shy. He will not pull a trigger. I watched him fight Sean Porter and get his ass whooped for 10 rounds against Sean Porter. And finally, in the 12th round, he decided to pull a trigger and knock Sean Porter damn near out. And he barely got up at the count. And because he was so far ahead on the scorecards, all he had to do was run around and hang on to win the fight. I watched Adrian Broner fight against Mikey Garcia. And Mikey Garcia, for the first 8 rounds, was sticking him with the jab, sticking him with the overhand, walking him down. And he just wouldn't throw his right. He wouldn't throw punches. And maybe in the 9th, 10th, 11th round, he started letting his hand go. He began to allow his hands to work. And he was able to land a lot of clean shots, a lot of hooks, a lot of uppercuts on the inside, a lot of overhand. A lot of overhand shots. He was doing great in those last few rounds, but he had lost by so many. He was down so many rounds it didn't help him. You know, he still lost the fight. So for him to have this opportunity to fight a big name like Pacquiao and pretty much resurrect his career to where he could start making $3, $4, $5 million a fight instead of making $700,000 to $1 million a fight, he allowed that opportunity to slip through his hands because he was more about show than about fighting. And he got at that ring and then throw punches and wasn't aggressive and just let that opportunity slip away. And after the fight, he embarrassed himself. And if you watch HBO, the epilogue series, which is they have a show where it's all access, where they show the training, they show everything that leads up to the fight. Then and after the fight, they do one more show. And this next show is about them showing the fight and the reaction after the fight, going into the locker room, the family, and how everybody was feeling and how excited the winning side was. And Adrian Broner, when he lost the fight, they usually interview both fighters, and they were interviewing Pacquiao, and when it was Adrian Broner's turn, they showed his family, his wife, his mother, and it looked like a sister, and they were making a comment, I hope he doesn't say anything stupid. I hope he doesn't say anything stupid. The first thing this idiot said is, everybody know I won that fight. And that was the stupidest thing he could have said, because everybody know he lost that fight. I scored the fight. I had him winning 2 rounds out of 10. And even one of the 2 rounds I gave him was a generous round. It could have went to Pacquiao, but I gave it to him because he was so far down. I was just trying to be nice. So he pretty much lost 118, 110. And he said he won that fight and embarrassed his family. And then he said, this is for the hood. I did this for the hood. Which is always some crazy shit. This guy's all talent, but he would never maximize his talent and see his potential because he can't get out of his own way. And when he finally get out of his own way and start trying to reach his potential, his skill set is going to be gone because he's going to be older. He took too many shots to the head. He's taking on too many fights, and he's not going to be the same guy. It's going to be too late for him, and that's the sad part. So, Adrian Broner. Then we had the Charlo twins. The Charlo twins had this big card on Fox. Fox was introducing PBC as the new boxing network for this stable of great fighters that Al Heyman and Floyd Mayweather has under their belt. And the Charlo twins was the first to pretty much roll out this new venture that Fox is taking on with PBC Boxing Company. And it wasn't a great night for the Charlo brothers, just put it that way. Jermell Charlo, who is he's not the younger because they're twins, of course, but he's a smaller fighter. He fights at 154 or junior middleweight, and he was the WBC champion. He took on Tony Harris. Tony Harris is a guy from Detroit who is a great boxer, but he usually fizzles out late in the fight. Every fight I've seen him lose, he's lost 2 fights. And the 2 fights he lost were to great champions. But each time he was winning the fights and eventually faded in the late rounds and ended up losing and getting knocked out. Well, he's fighting the Charlo brother, Jermell. And he pretty much outboxed Jermell for most of the fight. And once again, the Adrian Broner syndrome, he really did throw a lot of punches. He could have done more, and he didn't. And that was a problem. So I feel like if he would have taken his time and picked his shots right and landed some good clean shots, he would eventually knock Tony Harris out. But he didn't do that. He was rushing his shots, and then when he was rushing his shots, Tony Harris is such a great fighter, he was countering him. He was countering with the overhands. He was sticking the jab early. He was catching him with some hooks. He even caught him with a few nice uppercuts, and then he'll get out because he's a good, slick boxer. He's one of those guys hit and not get hit. So throughout the fight, you could tell Charlo was getting frustrated. The more he got frustrated, the more he wouldn't let his hands go. And in the 12th round, I guess he felt like he had won a fight because Tony Harris was moving and running so much that he actually had Tony Harris hurt and didn't put on the pressure. Did not take advantage of Tony Harrison being hurt and ended up going to the scorecards, and he lost in a unanimous decision by 115, 113 on all judges' scorecards. So it was a disappointing loss. That was his first loss of his career. It was devastating to him. His brother watched him lose, and the bigger Charlo, which is Jamal, is 28-0 with 21 knockouts. And he's unbelievable, man. Has mad skills. His skills are a lot better than Jermell, but Jermell is still good. Don't get me mistaken. Jermell is a hell of a boxer, but Jamal is the truth, and Jamal is the one that's gonna break records. But even he struggled in this fight. He fought a lefty, and it was a late sub because you had a guy that he was supposed to fight before this sub that failed a drug test. And so they had to remove him from the fight like 2 weeks before. So Charlo didn't have time to spar and prep with lefty sparring partners. And it really showed in the fight because he was getting caught with blind shots. And you could tell that he had been sparring righties the whole count. And he was not ready at all for a left-hander. So he didn't really look good on this showcase. In this showcase, I think the viewership was in like 3.5 million homes. And so you had this big spotlight on these fighters that they are trying to promote and build. And it wasn't a good showing for either. Even though Jamal still won, it was an ugly win. It wasn't one of those wins where he destroyed a guy like I'm used to him doing. So the Charlo twins, I think they still could bounce back. I think Jamel and Tony Harrison will do the rematch this summer. I think Jamel will come out more aggressive and he would easily defeat Tony Harrison. And I think he'll move on and fight Jarius Hurd and unify the division. And then Jamal, I think he's going to have to take on some tougher competition. The problem is you have Triple G, you have Demetrius Andrade, you have Canelo, you have Daniel Jacobs. All the middleweight guys who he would be fighting with the championship belts are all on DAZN. And once again, the network issues. Those guys are on DAZN, he's on Fox and Showtime. And so how does he get an opportunity at a belt? Do he cross over the picket fence and leave Fox behind to go and get those belts? Does Fox allow him to do that? Or do they take it to purse bid and try to outbid DAZN so they can get the fight on Fox? So, but that's going to take a while. It's not going to be an easy thing to do. So I think the Charlo brothers will have another double hitter where they'll try to present them to the world again, and maybe this time they will have a good showing, get some knockouts, and everybody will know their name. Those guys are from Houston, and they're great fighters. Both of them are, and I hope they get their just due. The last topic of the day, I'm going to talk about Tank Davis, Gervonta Davis, so to say. His nickname is Tank. A great fighter, fighting at 130, 135. Unbelievable. Floyd Mayweather fighter. He's Floyd Mayweather pretty much cash cow right now. He's a young kid, 21-0, 20 knockouts. He's like a miniature Mike Tyson. And that's no joke. I know we hear that all the time, but he seriously hit as hard as a heavyweight. And this guy's 130, maybe 5'5". And he fought Hugo Ruiz, and after about 6 punches, the guy was out, couldn't take it anymore, took a knee, wouldn't get back up. Official called the fight. This guy's unbelievable. And my only problem with Tank is he's not active enough. He only fought, I think, 3 times in the last 2 years. And he's 21, 22 years old. He's 23, 24 years old. So he's young enough to take on at least 3 fights. And if one of the fights if one of the fights is a tough fight where he has to recover for 2 or 3 months, then I get it, only fighting 3 fights in a year. But he fought a couple of weeks ago, knocked the guy in the first round. There's no reason he can't come back in 2 months and fight again. But Floyd Mayweather is coddling this kid, which is the wrong thing to do. You have Lomachenko out there. You have Leo Santa Cruz moving up. You have Abner Mares. You have Leibniz. You have quite a few fighters out there that he could be taking on and building his name. But Floyd Mayweather would not put him in the ring with any one of these guys. And I know Tank Davis want to fight these guys. And after the fight, it really pissed me off because they asked Floyd what's next for Tank. And he made his statement was basically, we don't know yet. We're going to try to get him back this summer. And we're going to do an exhibition with Tension, the Japanese kid that Floyd Mayweather knocked out in the exhibition in a ring with Gervonta. Floyd Mayweather is 80 years old. I understand why he's fighting exhibitions to make $10 million. But Tank Davis is in the middle of an illustrious career. He's trying to build and become this legend. And you're bullshitting by putting him in the ring with a freaking Asian kid who is a boxer, but he's a kickboxer, to fight in an exhibition. That is a waste of his time. Go talk to Al Heyman and get him on the phone with Top Rank and Bob Arum and get this fight signed between him and Lomachenko. Because Lomachenko getting older every day. So we got to get that tank fight as soon as possible and make this happen and let that kid become a legend. Because yeah, people, diehard boxing fans, hardcore boxing fans know who Tank Davis is. But if I went and asked the average casual fans, they wouldn't know who Tank Davis, they wouldn't know his name. And that's what you're trying to do. So I think Floyd Mayweather is kind of playing with this kid's career instead of putting him in the ring with tough competition, because he's been a champion now for 2 years. He's ready. He's ready to fight these guys, win or lose. And it kind of reminds me of Floyd's career. And don't get me wrong, Floyd fought 26 ex-champions. He beat 10 to 12 Hall of Famers in his career. He has a hell of a resume. But his resume could have been a lot better too. Although he has a hell of a resume, it could have been a lot better. So with that said, I think he should let Tank go. Let him build that legacy. Let him become a legend, because he's definitely going to be there. Let the world see him. Let him become that pay-per-view star. He's not going to become a pay-per-view star fighting tension in Japan for $5 million for a 3-round exhibition and then not fighting again for 8 months. That's not going to help him. He needs to be in the ring with true champions, with true warriors, so he can show the world his skills. Floyd Mayweather, don't put a leash on this kid. Let him go. I think I covered all my topics today. Hope you guys enjoyed this if you listen to it. PvR Boxing, I'm going to try to bring you an episode at least once a month and maybe twice a month, depending on what's going on in the boxing world or the UFC world. I know a John Jones fight is coming up here soon. I know Conor McGregor comes back in April, May to fight in the UFC. And I know it's possible he could fight Tony Ferguson or Cowboy Cerrone. And then you have Khabib that's probably going to come back in a few months also after his suspension. So there's going to be a lot of things going on. My guy, what's his name? Anderson Silva lost this week. So you have a lot of things going on in the combat world. Going to try to cover as much as possible. Try to give you guys a little twist from our normal day-to-day basketball, football, baseball coverage, interviews. So, PvR Boxing, hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please leave a comment under my YouTube, under the YouTube video. And if you watch this video, you like it, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to build this channel up. We're trying to bring you content from a level where you can understand it, and not from a level of ESPN where if you're not a diehard sports fan, it's over your head. We're trying to teach you here. We're trying to give you, the perception versus the reality of sports at PvR. We're trying to bring it to you from a different angle. And with that said, thank you for listening. Hope you learned something about boxing today. Peace. Thank you for listening to the PvR Sports Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch new episodes and PvR clips. Like our Facebook page and share with your friends if you enjoyed this podcast. As we say in the South, catch you later.